That's right. It is time for Philadelphia Flyers hockey, Saturday night hockey in South Philadelphia, as the Flyers on the second of a back-to-back tonight facing off against the 5-0 on the road Los Angeles Kings. It's Jason Martinez, Chris Terrian, and Brian Smith. And Bundy, last night, the second of that home and home, we talked about how many times teams seem to split that. John Tortorella was expecting Buffalo to be a lot better in that game, Bundy, and they were not. The Flyers took advantage of it.
Yeah, and I actually thought they'd be a lot better, too, like in terms of coming out with shots. I mean, would they muster up maybe 20 shots again? Looks like Buffalo's gaslit their fan base again. And they've been doing it for 20 years, so they become masters of it. And that's all I got to say about them. I mean, that team cannot, as they played the last two games, cannot make a playoff. They can't get in, let alone win a series or even a game in a series. Flyers, though, they pounced on them last night. And so the one thing that we've seen with this Flyers team is that we said they have to, it's better they get a lead in a game. Like, that's always going to be better suited for this team. But they don't want to chase the hockey games. And when they get in those positions, it's not well suited. They jumped all over a team last night that thought they just needed to put their skates and sticks on the ice and go out and just dance around and we'll get the win. No, not the case at all. Give the Flyers a ton of credit for that effort last night. I hated the way the Buffalo Sabres played. I didn't even like them the other night here in Philly. Flyers could have easily gotten that win too, but no, they went in there. It's very, very difficult to win two in a row in a home and home, and sometimes you think it's going to be easy. It's just not. It's very hard because of the competitive levels that go through guys in a home and home, and sometimes it gets a little personal, and you get your juices rubbed up a little bit more because you're carrying some animosity maybe from one game into the next. It's like a playoff series, kind of a two-game playoff series you get into it in season, so they can be good. We saw the end result of that with Hathaway laying a beating on Cousins. So that kind of ended it up nicely, and a quick little clap of the hands for the Flyers, and they mopped it up. Now they got another big test here tonight, right? Like, LA's no joke. They've had a good start to the year, undefeated on the road. Flyers coming off a win, and I'll turn it over to you guys. You can't hang on your laurels from last night. You got to move on, turn the page, and be ready for this Los Angeles King team tonight.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to talk to you since the end of the first Buffalo game on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Flyers doubled them up in shot attempts, like 75 to 30-something. And there's just one of those games where the puck wasn't going in the net. I mean, what's that do to a team's psyche when you have that situation? And obviously the Flyers were able to bounce back from that in last night's game.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, and it's difficult when you lose that first game in a home and home to find it in you to go out and compete because you're behind the eight ball, right? It's a 4-point game when you're playing a team in your own conference like that. So, it was important. It was an important 2 points. The other thing too is much like baseball, right? When a team goes off on a bad run and you need that ace to come in and kind of quiet things down, get a win. From that standpoint, the Flyers go into this game tonight having lost 4 in a row. You got to play the LA Kings tonight, and you got to go out on the West Coast where everyone's going to expect you to beat San Jose. So who knows? I like it that they just ended the losing streak, and now they've set themselves up to try to get back on track again. It's hard to get off the schneid until you get that win, but these are things last year we didn't see. They would have continued losing. They easily would have, and they would have probably gone on to an 8 or 10 gamer like they've had each of the last 2 years. But that's not the case now. Much more competitive start. Some good goaltending by Ursan last night. He played, came back and rebooted himself. And the Flyers, I thought, just took advantage of one turnover after another by Buffalo last night. Just an awful team in getting pucks into the Flyers zone, and the Flyers jumped all over it. Any NHL team, if you're going to give them those little buttercup turnovers, they're going to jump on them and go the other way.
Yeah, and the Flyers didn't. They took advantage of it last night. Bundy, like you mentioned, this Kings team's 5-0 on the road. Does that for players? Does winning on the road just breed more confidence? And you've talked about that home ice doesn't mean as much.
Yeah,
especially in today's game as it once did. But when you go 5-0 to start a season, that is significant. And is it just getting the players' head like, hey, us against them, and who cares where we're playing? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, you don't have to deal with all the outside stuff when you go on the road sometimes. So that I always looked at that as a bonus. You just go out and, like I said, eat, sleep, and play hockey, and just focus on what's there for you. But again, I'm not a huge fan of like everybody's getting too hyped on home ice or home field. I mean, look at the Phillies. I keep going back to it. I mean, what did home field do for them? Nothing. They need to win one game in a building they seemingly couldn't lose in, and they couldn't win against a team that just got destroyed. So some of it's all in the moment you're in. Going on the road joins the team together more because when you get up in the morning, there's a bunch of guys at the breakfast table in the restaurant. You go for dinner with them where you don't do that at home because you go back to your family or your kids and you rejoin at the rink the next day. So, yeah, it's a good time to bond like the Kings are doing, but they're also a team that's smart enough with a guy like Kopitar, 2 Stanley Cups, Doughty leading the league in ice time again, that they're going to lay out a little bit of a blueprint for this team, how to play it and be on the road. And as of now, best road team in the league right now outside of Vegas. But, I mean, they're both right there. And they've had a remarkable start to the season. And playing good on the road certainly helps.
Just getting back a little bit back into last night's game when the Flyers were on the road, they talk about playing a good road game from time to time. And I thought the thing that might have been even more impressive than the start to that game was the fact that the Flyers came out in the second period and just buckled things down and didn't let Buffalo get the momentum. And that's got to be a challenge, I would think, when you're a team on the road to keep a team quiet like that in their own building.
Yeah, you know what? They did. And Buffalo, you could tell, was really trying to get something going there. And they had a little bit of good start to that second. They did. I'm not going to take that away from them. They got a goal. Maybe makes it interesting. It's 4-0 at that point. But ultimately, the Flyers kind of took back a little bit of that swagger that Buffalo had. It might have been the only swagger they had in the game. And the Flyers kind of ended that quickly, got the 5th goal. And that was kind of how she ended. But kept everything at bay. Buffalo's best period was the second, but it wasn't a whole lot. It didn't do a whole lot to really shake the Flyers up at all. And the Flyers cruised to an easy third period and a great win.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said, Bundy, they end that losing skid at a very opportune time.
Yeah.
That was big. I think you're right, because it could have just kept leading into another game and another game. And this is an important stretch, I think, for this team.
With injuries, too, right, Jace? Like, you have Couturier out, the goaltender, so you got some guys. So, a lot of guys stepped up last night in it, and that's a good, solid victory.
Yeah, it raises some questions if you keep losing in that regard as well. Let's take a timeout. Brian and Bundy are going to return with a couple of Flyers Warriors, and then we're going to take you to the top of the hour where Tim Saunders and Todd Fedoruk are standing by with the countdown to face-off, followed by all the first-period action between the Flyers and a very good Los Angeles Kings team. Cal Peterson going to face his former team for the first time tonight as well. Stay tuned. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
Welcome back to Wells Fargo Center. Flyers getting set to take on the Los Angeles Kings here tonight on Military Appreciation Night. And we have a couple of special guests here connected to that from our Flyers Warriors program. Bill Duffy and Ed McAvoy here with us this evening. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
I believe we may have our buddy Todd Fedork upstairs as well.
I was actually at a function with these guys a few weeks ago at River Winds, and they had a lot of the jersey auction going off. So
nice.
You always have something going on, guys. Really quickly, tell us about the initiative of the Warriors, what it means, with the Philadelphia Flyers, and what you got going on. Conversation, boys.
Yeah. So essentially, the Flyers Warriors was built to bring disabled veterans together, be around like-minded individuals, because after you get out of the military, you really have nothing. So you're back into the regular world, and you lose that camaraderie that you had when you were amongst other military veterans. So we decided to do something where we built hockey into the program, because the locker room's an important piece. Sitting in that locker room, Bundy, as you know, is a great atmosphere as a hockey player and as a veteran as well, just to talk to individuals and see what they're going through and help them through it, and hockey's a part of it.
Yeah, and it helps reinstill that support system that a lot of individuals lose upon separation from the military. So we find that safety net, if you will, is a huge component to not only readjustment, but getting back with that type of environment.
I know a lot of you guys, and from what I do in the community with Pennsylvania Recovery Center, we actually named our housing after you guys, Warriors Way, just because I think the things that we do, when I join you guys for an alumni hockey game, whatever it is, the commitment that you guys have made to our communities and to our country is unparalleled, and we thank you for that. But what you're also doing to take a step out takes a lot of courage. And I watch and the other thing I have to mention, you guys are pretty much an undefeated team, right? Like, you're national champions.
Yeah, each year, if it's not all of us, at least one of the teams wins the national championship. We're up to 4 teams now. When we started, we only had like 33 players, and it was a mixed hodgepodge of skill level. Now we have 4 teams based on skill level, tier 1 through 4. So all are welcome, whether you know how to play hockey or not, and we'll take you in and we'll teach you the game, and we'll get you out there on the ice with other veterans.
Todd Fedork's upstairs joining in with us. Fridgie, you got us?
Yep.
Sure. So this is going to be our first ever military gala on the Battleship, New Jersey on November 11th. It starts at 6 p.m. It's open for anybody to attend. You can buy tickets on our social media, on our website, flyerswarriors.com, or you can look on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, or X as it's now called, and you can buy tickets there. And all are welcome. It doesn't have to be directly affiliated with the team, but it's going to be a great event. We have some special guests coming, alumni, disabled veterans that work for Toyota. Melissa Stockwell is coming. She is a military veteran triathlete in the Paralympics. She will be there in attendance as well. It's going to be just a great event, live music and everything.
We'll give you a little bit more fill-in on that, Fridge, too. They have special guests, silent auction, live performances, a military ceremony, which is absolutely stunning. The proceeds will benefit the Philadelphia Flyers Warriors. Tickets and sponsorship and inquires contact. You can reach out to flyerswarriors@gmail.com. Flyerswarriors@gmail.com. Tickets are $125 or $1,000 for a VIP table. Black tie optional, military dress uniform. And that will be Saturday, November 11th. It will be at 6 p.m. on the Battleship, New Jersey, which is on the Camden side of the river.
Correct.
It will be a great night.
On Veterans Day.
On Veterans Day.
Yep.
It's also my son's birthday. That's a great day.
That is correct. We will be raffling off a chance to fire off the cannons on the Battleship, New Jersey. And they will be fired twice, once by individuals that put this whole event together, and then a separate raffle will be and somebody will win and get the fire off the cannons. It's going to be cool.
That's fantastic. Now, I've never done anything remotely close to what any of you guys have done.
You're going out the cannon.
I'm going out the cannon. That's why I'm the cannon fodder. But I have been around the game a long time, and I have seen where guys who come up through professional hockey, whether it's the NHL, AHL, AA, when they're done, it's kind of, you mentioned it a little earlier, it's kind of like a little bit, you feel a little lost because these guys, all their careers, through all their different levels, have had that structure and stuff to their lives, and then all of a sudden one day it's just gone. And I would imagine it's a little bit the same coming from the military. You come through with the structure and stuff like that, and then once you're done, you got to figure it out. And I guess that's part of the mission here, correct?
Absolutely. We not only are there for each other, but we come from a wide array of backgrounds, whether it's service within the Department of Veterans Affairs, other types of public service within our communities. So when somebody or their families are looking for a resource or a way to prop themselves back up, we, if not on the team itself, have connections within the communities in which we serve to hopefully reinstill that with individuals. And another, I think, important aspect of what we do is giving back to the community. While we try to do a lot amongst ourselves, knowing that the communities that support us are equally as important, that giving back tends to give a lot of fulfillment and self-worth, and not only show our appreciation, but let the communities know what, how much they mean to us, and recognize the efforts that they made to get us to where we are today.
I know with November 11th coming, guys, it's really hard for everybody to say and be as grateful as I know people in this building will be, but you guys are amazing human beings, and I know from being around you, kind of people you are, competitive spirits. I don't think you beat us yet, but one of these days, maybe you'll have your day.
One day.
One day.
All right, well, again, that's the Philadelphia Warriors Gala coming up a week from tonight, right? Yep, week from tonight, November the 11th, on the Battleship, New Jersey. FlyersWarriors@gmail.com for tickets and sponsorship inquiries. Bill Duffy and Ed McAvoy from the Warriors. Thanks so much.
Great stuff, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks,
here.
y'all.
Enjoy Military Appreciation Night. Thank you both for your service, and hope you have a great evening.
Thanks, guys.
We'll take our next break here on the Fanatic Flyers pregame show. When we come back, we'll have more ahead of tonight's game between the Flyers and the Los Angeles Kings. That's just ahead here on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
Mental health housing for guys struggling like Patrick Kennedy, you familiar with him? You know Patrick Kennedy? Ted Kennedy's son, the old senator. JFK's nephew. He lives in Pregame. Bill Meltzer played the top name. He's written a book. So he wrote a book. He's written a book. I called this. So I'm looking for a guy. It's you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Both taking down the West, I hope. We'll see. Flyers, or the Sixers rather, beat Phoenix earlier, and now the Flyers got the Kings. And it's not a back-to-back home and home or anything, but Flyers are going to play the Kings on consecutive Saturdays here, so it's going to be setting up maybe for an interesting one next week too.
Yeah, no question about it. I want to bring this up real quick. Let me see. Is Al back on?
Yeah, right here. Just talking to the Warriors there, and
Yeah,
boy, they're great guys, man.
Yeah, the best.
They are.
Funny, I don't put a ton into plus minus because you can jump on the ice and get a minus. You can jump on the ice and get a plus and have nothing to do with the play. But Igor Zamula is plus 8 in the NHL, which is basically tied for third. Quinn Hughes is plus 13. Then a bunch of players, 5 players at plus 9, and Zamula at plus 8. From what you've seen out of him so far, I really love the way he defends with his stick at the blue line. What have you seen out of Zamula?
You know what, Chase? This is where my old school comes out here with a question like that. But I actually think the plus minus tells every stat that every one of those phony stats wants to try to tell. Yeah. So instead of creating more jobs for numbers that we don't need, the plus minus to me at the end of the year, not over a course of a day or two, but at the end of the year, that's
right?
Yes. It tells, I don't care about this Corsi and this number, and let's analyze this and that, and everything needs to be. Forget about it. It's no requirement. I'll tell you what, the plus minus stuff is a good, accurate number at the end of the year. And yes, it'll happen where you hop on or hop off and you get one or the other. But most of the time, it's a stat that doesn't lie at the end of the year. It'll give you a pretty good indication of where you are. And I'll tell you what, another thing. That's an outstanding start to a season for a young guy like Zamula being a plus 8. And I don't care if there's some funky number that detracts it, he's plus 8.
What do you think of expected goals?
That's the dumbest one of them all. Okay, now you got me woke me up now. I got to save this for Snow the Goal because we're getting that. That's beautiful.
Last night, Bundy bomb here at any point. I would reckon.
I know you had your little guy, not so little guy's game last night, but I wanted to point out there was one point in the first period where Zamula basically saves a goal. In my opinion, I think he gets a stick check on a Sabre who had a wide open net off a rebound. And at that point in that game, it's 2-0. I mean, to me, that's a game-changing play. Buffalo scores there.
Yeah, I watched the game when I got back.
Oh, you did see?
Oh, okay. I saw the game.
I thought you were. I
wasn't in lifetime.
I got you. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw that particular play, but that to me is a huge play.
Dude, he's got good instinct, like defensive instinct. And as a guy, I said before, I'm a defensive defenseman. I like what I see. I mean, is he going to make mistakes? Sure, but I mean that's part of growing. But instinctually, he does a great job in his own zone and makes really subtle plays and subtle poke checks. He's got a good stick. His positioning's pretty good. I'll tell you what, he's been impressive in terms of where they're at. And again, Jason, when you go through, what are they at, like 10 game mark, somewhere 11?
11, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a stat that can't lie. You can't make yourself a plus 8 jumping on the ice by accident 8 times plus more than you did with the other goal. So that's a testament to him and a good number, an excellent number.
Yeah, you can't. At the end of the year, all those shifts, and if you're on for way more than for more goals for than you are goals against, when you have a big sample size, it doesn't lie. It's just the reality of what matters most in the game, which is that big scoreboard that's hanging.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't go after somebody with a plus minus on a single night. Right. That just becomes overbearing. You can go, the guy was -3.
Somebody's -5 last night, right?
Who?
Somebody. I don't know.
It happens.
One of the Sabres.
Owen Power.
Yeah, Owen Power.
Yeah. So that it happens, but I'm just saying that you can't gauge a guy like that.
And
now,
the other time I've seen it useful too is even on a bad team. If you've got a team where the entire roster is minus, but then here's this one guy that's +4. Well, +4 doesn't sound like much, but when you look at it in the right context.
Did you guys watch Keith Yandel for an entire year? I mean,
we kind of
that was unbelievable. It was like he not even checked a single guy.
Yeah.
What was he, -50 or something? Like, that doesn't lie either. It just doesn't lie.
Unfathomable.
Yes.
How many he was on for. I mean, it was almost like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
You get to that point. And then you see a lot of those guys that are offensive defensemen that, put up good offensive numbers, but they end up way net negative when it comes to plus minus as well. So that's part of it too.
Yeah, and they're cheaters.
Yeah.
That's what they're called. That's what they get called.
Yeah.
Well, because they're not putting it into the D zone.
Let me ask you, similar in stature, you and Zamula, both long guys, bigger guys and good reach. When do you attack with the stick? Because I imagine a lot of that is timing and reading the play when to attack a guy using your stick. I don't mean attack like hit him, but I mean attack.
So one of the things I always did, and Desjardins did a great job too. I'm playing with one of the best D in the league at the time, right? Like Eric, and I always give kudos to him. But one of the biggest things you can do as a player, just leave the guy to the outside. If he's not going to get through you, unless he's invisible, he won't get through you. Now, if he wants to shoot from the corner goal line, go ahead and do it. Your goalie's expected to stop that. But in terms of beating you out of the corner or getting better position, that's what Zamula has done well. Yeah. And when you're able to kind of lock your body on another guy or take away his space, sports is all about space, right? In every single sport, it's finding that time and space to make a play. Football, finding a hole. Basketball, time to get a shot off. A baseball, timing a hit. Hockey, same thing. Getting a shot off and making a play all requires space. And I think Zamula, for the most part, has done an unbelievable job closing off time and space for guys. And you know what? He's not a small guy. He uses a little bit of that lanky reach a little bit, and he moves pretty good. He moves pretty darn good for a big fella.
I bring this up not to point it out, but to show that it's a growth process with Zamula. He's in Vegas. He gets walked on the game-tying goal. Did that ever happen to you at any point in your career? And when it did it ever happen again? Like, was that experience enough for you to just adjust and now, force guys to the outside thing? I'm sure it happens to everybody at some point that they just get kind of walked on the way.
Oh, my God. I've been walked. Yeah, I've been walked so bad my jock was left on the top of the glass. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't been walked in this league, you haven't played in this league. Yeah. And it's an awful feeling. Yeah, I've been danced away. I mean, but you know what? If you take 1,000 one-on-ones and you get beat 10 times, that's okay.
Yeah,
it's going to happen. The other guy's good too, right?
Yeah, the greatest players in the world you're trying to defend.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me take you back, Bundy, when you got to game number 500 as a player. Game number 1, I imagine, is that's just a huge thing to make it to the show. But making it to 500 is a different element because not only did you make it, but you're sustainable as an NHL player. You played a lot of games, 500 games. Travis Konecny is going to play his 500th game tonight. Take us back to when Bundy and Chris Therien reached game 500.
Well, I think it feels like it's an arrival, right? Like you've really played and you've established yourself as a mainstay guy. And, I mean, that's a solid that's 6 years plus in the league, playing every game healthy, which he hasn't been. So I think it was a huge deal. It was only that's a milestone in the NHL. 500 games is also a milestone as well as 1,000. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great thing for him, and he earned that. And there's a lot of players in the league, and there's probably see a lot more 500 game players, but certainly nice to know, he's arrived in the last couple of years. He's really stepped up and found a niche and a groove for himself that I'm sure he's quite happy with.
Just looking at this team now here at this point, they're going to play this game tonight. Then it's got a week-long road trip. We touched on that in the first segment. Coming off that Buffalo game and the Hathaway thing at the end, that's something like that happens at that point in the game. It seems meaningless, but it really isn't in the long run, right? That carries over to a team's psyche from game to game, you would say?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of really just kind of part of the ongoing process of a season of a team, kind of gelling into hopefully something that does well at the end of the year.
Yeah, and again, it's great, I think, when you see, players doing that and finding a groove together as a group, liking each other. You always hear teams that really like each other or finding ways that they play hard for one another. So, again, I think with the Flyers right now, they just have to keep growing right now. This is a great opportunity tonight for Philly, to get out and take down a team. Again, it sets another precedent. Well, LA hasn't lost on the road. What a great opportunity right now to come off a good win last night and knock this LA team out of here. This is a home game. Looks like it's going to be a great crowd here tonight. It's really zipping down here, probably the best since I've seen this year. What a great opportunity if the Flyers can get out early on this team and jump them a little bit and have a good feeling.
Yeah, and set yourself up very nicely for a West Coast trip. Last home game for 2 weeks' time.
Yes, which is busy.
Yep. We got Cal Peterson facing his former team, Travis Konecny, in his 500th game. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day with Jason Martinez, Chris Therien, and Brian Smith, but we've got Tim Saunders and Tom Fedoruk standing by. Countdown to face-off, followed by all the first period action coming up right after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.